Welcome to The Author Show, where we feature new authors and books, from fiction to self-help and everything in between. You'll find it all at theauthorshow.com. That's theauthorshow.com. And now let the show begin.
Hi, this is The Author Show, and I'm your host, Linda Thompson. Sometime our life's plan gets derailed, and we're left wondering where our journey will take us next. In Kristy Lee's debut novel, The Worst Thing I Could Do, her protagonist, Maddie, is faced with some very unexpected decisions. Kristy joins us to share more about Maddie's story. Kristy, welcome to The Author Show.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Kristy, will you please give us a quick overview of The Worst Thing I Could Do?
Absolutely. So the story is about an F.B.I. researcher named Maddie. As you said, Maddie is coming off of a really tough divorce, and it's basically derailed her life. And she's really hoping to get her life back on track through a successful work project with the F.B.I. where they're researching violent criminals. The problem is that one of her research subjects, named Jonah, is not only very attractive, but Maddie starts to have feelings for him. So the story is really about her journey through some decisions that she needs to make in her life and career, and really ultimately her journey to find happiness.
Wow. Kristy, you've written a book that is very different from any contemporary romance I've ever read. Where did the idea for your storyline generate?
Oh, that's a good question. So I will tell you, I am a fan of, those types of fictional forensic television shows that are really popular. And I was watching one of those once, and I found that the female character who was the professional in the scenario ended up falling in love with an inmate, and did so without hesitation, and did so without thinking twice about it. And I just remember thinking, no, that is not realistic. That's not what would happen at all. If somebody was in that situation, it would put not only their career, but their entire life into spiral. And so I wanted to write about a more realistic story in that same scenario.
I happen to agree with everything you just said. So who do you feel would be an ideal reader for The Worst Thing I Could Do?
The target audience is really your female audience. I would say anywhere between 25 and older. It's really geared towards women's fiction, anybody interested in stories about self-discovery.
What came first to you, character or plot?
The very first thing that came to me was title, actually. Was the title. I remember thinking, no, that is the worst thing you can do. And from there came the character, and then from there came plot.
If you could compare your book with any other, what would that other book be?
Oh, that's a tough question because it is a different kind of a story. I will tell you, I've never read anything similar. The only other thing I can even think to compare it to is Eat, Pray, Love. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's
yes.
It's about that journey of self-discovery, and that is the only book that I could even relate it to, and that's kind of a stretch.
Well, Kristy, since this is your debut novel, do you think there's another author who may have had an influence on your writing?
I have been influenced by every author and every book I've ever read. I will say that of any writer that's affected me the most, it's been Jane Austen. She is a tried and true favorite of mine, but I don't want to confuse the audience. This book is nothing like your Jane Austen. But she's definitely been my biggest influence.
Will Maddie, or maybe even Jonah, return to us in a sequel?
No, I do not believe so. I think that this story comes to a full conclusion by the end. So I don't think I'm going to feel a need to revisit it.
Okay, Kristy, let's dream a bit. If your book were optioned to become a movie, either for large or small screen, who would you choose to play Maddie, and who would you choose to play Jonah?
That's a really good question. I think the truth is when I was writing Jonah, I put a lot of emphasis in describing his beautiful green eyes. And I will tell you, I was influenced by an actor named Jensen Ackles, who stars in a show called Supernatural. So if I could pick anybody to play Jonah, it would probably be Jensen, because he influenced the looks of the character.
And any ideas for Maddie?
Oh, honestly, I've never given it any thought.
That's okay.
Yeah.
So what sets your book apart from others in the women's fiction genre?
I think from the feedback I have really gathered, what sets it apart is it's a little bit unexpected. And it isn't, as you said, your typical story in the romance genre. And when you start reading it, it's going to end up in a place that you're not expecting.
Are your characters taking on traits of real people you know, or are they just straight out of your imagination?
Oh, that's a good question. Jonah is straight out of my imagination. But I will tell you, Maddie has some of my own traits. Not many, but she does sort of a character after my own heart.
Looking back, as a child, were you always a storyteller? Did you always think that you'd write a book?
That is a really great question. And honestly, no, I've always been an absolute lover of books and reading. I never as a child envisioned myself writing, but I always created imaginary stories and lived in my head in these stories my entire life. It wasn't until a very vivid dream I had in 2016 that I woke up and said, I'm going to write a book.
So are you working on a new book now?
Yes, my second book just got picked up for publication. It's called Glimmers of Hope, and it will be out in the fall.
And can you give us a quick teaser on what it's all about?
Yes, it is a coming of age story in the young adults genre, new adult genre, about a girl who was actually abandoned at a train station as an infant. And so it's about her life as an 18-year-old embarking on the world with this very interesting backstory.
That is very interesting. I can't wait to read that one. So, Kristy, what has been the most rewarding experience for you since publishing your first book?
There's been two things. One was actually going into a bookstore and seeing my book on the shelf. That was surreal and amazing. The other thing was having a stranger come up to me and tell me how much they loved my book. Those two experiences are unbeatable.
Well, that's one comment. What other kind of comments have you gotten from in the way of feedback from readers?
I have gotten a lot of great positive feedback in terms of this book surprised me. I couldn't put it down has been the most common thing I have received, which has been really thrilling for me. And the other comments I've gotten is just I put this book down and I felt good. And it was a story that made me feel better about life and about myself.
Do you have a group of friends or ARC readers who reviewed your book and offered suggestions before you published it?
Yes, absolutely. I had some friends who were able to provide me with some pivotal feedback, which I really appreciated. And I think is the reason why I was able to get it published to begin with was because of some of their awesome comments and feedback.
What would you like readers to remember after reading The Worst Thing I Could Do?
I would like authors to remember that it's going to be okay. Life's a journey, but we all have the opportunity to find happiness. And I hope that they leave reading my book feeling as though they too can find happiness in whatever form that looks like for them.
Kristy, will you please read a short excerpt from The Worst Thing I Could Do for our listeners?
I would love to. My throat catches. As I know this is dangerous, the flirting. I hold my mouth shut tight and stare down at my notepad, stopping myself from saying anything I will regret. He quickly gathers himself and drawls, sorry, I know that I should not have said that. I didn't mean anything by it. I just don't get to speak to many people outside of these walls, so when I get a chance to, I'm eager to learn about them. I look up at him, his eyes lighting up, and he smiles, wide, and my gosh, it is brilliant. And I could swear time stands still as I smile back at him. He leans back in the chair, the two front legs lifting off the ground. He's relaxed and pushes the sleeves of his orange prison uniform up his forearms. I need to get out of here. I should not be here, but something catches my eye. A small black tattoo on his wrist consisting of 3 lines and 4 dots. An excuse to extend our meeting presents itself, so I jump on it. This is not part of the research, but out of curiosity, what does the tattoo on your wrist mean? Jonah looks down at his arm, pulling up his shirt sleeve to give me a better look. It's kind of dorky, so don't laugh. He says this with a lopsided grin that is almost unbearable. It's a symbol meaning thief. I saw it in the movie The Hobbit. Oh, I see. What made you get that done? Jonah blinks his long lashes as he explains. Well, it fits me. That's what I am, a thief. It reminds me of who I am, so it will keep me in my place. That is not all you are, Jonah. I say this without even thinking. That's nice of you to say, but I'm not so sure it's true. I'm a changed man. I don't want to ever steal anything again, but I'm not sure there's much more to me. Instinctually, I reach out and run my index finger across his wrist, lingering as I get to the small tattoo, feeling the warmth of Jonah's skin while admiring the blue veins running up his forearm into the palm of his large hands. His eyes are all over me and his jaw is clenched. I immediately know I went too far and abruptly remove my finger. I'm so sorry, Jonah, the words barely a whisper. I'm not.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that just absolutely reeks of sexual tension. So
Yes.
well, that was a wonderful excerpt. So now I've got to know, where can we learn more about you and where can we purchase The Worst Thing I Could Do?
Thank you for asking. I would ask people to go to my website, KristyLeeAuthor.com. It's KristyLee author.com. And there they can see where to purchase my book, learn a little bit more about the book, a little bit more about me, and how to contact me.
We've been talking with Kristy Lee, author of The Worst Thing I Could Do. Kristy, thank you so much for spending time with us today, sharing Maddie's story. I'm really eager to finish reading your book, and I do hope that you will come back and chat with us when you publish your next one.
Certainly will. Thank you so much, Linda.
Loved this book and couldn't put it down. I read it all in just one sitting, even if it meant I kept my husband up because I was reading it by flashlight in bed. I really enjoyed this book and recommend it to others. Looking forward to more books by this author. Well, that was a review I found for The Worst Thing I Could Do. And if you found it as interesting as I did, go to KristyLeeAuthor.com and order your copy today. And when you finish, don't forget to post a review. And please share this interview with your friends so that they too may become acquainted with our author. And remember, The Author Show may be accessed at any time at theauthorshow.com. Plus, selected interviews can also be found on major platforms such as Amazon Fire TV, the Roku channel, Spotify, Pandora, Amazon Music, and many more. Whether you're an author who would like to be featured or a reader in search of new books, theauthorshow.com is a really great place to start.
Thanks for listening to The Author Show. Find out more about authors and their work at theauthorshow.com. Theauthorshow.com. Tune in next time to another great author on The Author Show.